So today I wanted to talk about the St. Louis cornet player and band leader, Oliver Cobb. All but forgotten today, in the late 1920s, Oliver Cobb was a rising star in the music world, cutting records and making prestigious live performances. His career was tragically cut short, and though his life is surrounded with much mystery, he left behind some excellent music which offers a unique glimpse into Midwestern jazz of the late 1920s. Oliver Cobb was born in October of 1908 to parents Arthur and Ollie, who had gotten married a year earlier near Colt, Arkansas, where Arthur was from. Like many African American families at the time, they migrated north. By 1920, the family was living in St. Louis, Missouri on Cass Avenue. Arthur Cobb worked as a cleaner at Union Station and later as a plumber before becoming a minister at the First Baptist Church of Elmwood Park. A young Oliver Cobb showed great promise as a cornet player and performer. He began performing professionally while some of his bandmates were still in high school. Saxophonist Freddie Martin recalls that early on Cobb had been working for a Hollywood show, and accounts from other band members suggest that Cobb had worked alongside Louis Armstrong. Apparently after a show at the Coliseum, Armstrong even offered Cobb a position in his band. However, Cobb declined. In 1929, Oliver Cobb and his family were living on Pine Street in a neighborhood called Mill Creek Valley. This seems to have been a big year for Cobb. He married Thelma Taylor, the 19-year-old daughter of a cook. Musical engagements seem to have been plentiful. The Conn Musical Instrument Company had gifted him with a brand new cornet, and on August 15th, he and his band headed to Chicago to record 2 sides for the Brunswick Record Company. At this session, Oliver Cobb and his 8-piece band, the Rhythm Kings, recorded the Ducks' Yas Yas Yas, a song just published that year in St. Louis by brothers Stump and Jesse Johnson. Jesse Johnson also worked as a booking agent for Cobb. The second number recorded was a tune called Hot Stuff. Jesse Johnson's name is listed as the composer, but it is possible that the credit lies elsewhere in the band. On this record, we hear Cobb's striking ability on his instruments, but also how he is fashioning himself after the already popular Louis Armstrong, not only in his pronounced and high register playing, but also in his gravel voice scat vocalizing. This recording session seems to have been a great boost for Cobb's career. He even briefly changes his band name to The Ducks after the title of his record. By 1930, he had apparently appeared at the famous Cotton Club in Harlem and had began making regular radio broadcasts for local St. Louis radio station KMOX. In January of 1930, Oliver and Thelma Cobb welcomed their first child, a daughter named Olivette. In June of this year, Oliver Cobb headed to Grafton, Wisconsin to accompany blues singer B. Turner on 2 sides for the Paramount Record Company. On these records, he once again demonstrated his ability of high register playing, but also shows a clear and competent blues style. In August, he would return to the Paramount studio to record 2 more sides, this time under his own name, and accompanied by the pianist Edith Johnson. At this session, Oliver Cobb records Cornet Pleadin' Blues Part 1 and 2, and once again, the parallels to Armstrong are undeniable.
I'm pleading, mama, and even got down on my knees, baby.
Whilst it looked from the outside that Cobb's career was on the up, he had been struggling with ill health. Some sources note that he had epilepsy, though it is difficult to know the exact nature of his health problems. In January of 1931, he relinquished control of his band to the pianist Eddie Johnson. By late spring, Thelma Cobb became pregnant with their second child, and Oliver Cobb soon took on a job playing first cornet for S.W. Brundage's Traveling Carnival. In June of 1931, the carnival arrived in Ottumwa, Iowa. On Sunday, the 21st, Cobb and a fellow band member went swimming in the Des Moines River by a boathouse. Around 4 p.m., Cobb dove into the water and did not resurface. He was discovered drowned 40 minutes later. He was only 22 years old. Oliver Cobb's body was returned to St. Louis, and a wake was held on Thursday, June 25th at the family residence on Pine. A funeral was held the following day at St. Paul AME Church. It was well attended by members of a local 44, the St. Louis Black Musicians Union. A 40-piece band led the funeral procession, and Oliver Cobb's former bands acted as pallbearers. In January of 1932, Thelma Cobb gave birth to a son, who she named Oliver Cobb Jr. It is impossible to predict what Oliver Cobb may have achieved had he lived longer. Though his career was cut tragically short, the music he left behind enriches our culture. It reminds us that the story of jazz is not only told through the genre's greatest figureheads, but through local music and musicians all over America and beyond. I hope you have enjoyed this video or found it interesting. If there's a musician you'd like to hear me talk about in an upcoming video, why not comment below? In the meantime, please do like and subscribe.